Welcome to Z Disability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Save as Ability. And if you can help us out by liking, subscribing, sharing, that really does help us keep great content flowing for you. And today we're talking about 3 takeaways from a report that just came out. This is like hot off the presses. We're like breaking news here. All right. So, but matter of disclosure, it's an organization, or actually both organizations that I'm a member of, and it's Disability In and LinkedIn. They partnered together to do this report. It's called Momentum at Work, Disability and Career Mobility. So it's got some really good takeaways. And I'd like to highlight 3 here for today's episode, because these 3, like we've talked about here on this program for a couple of years, and I think I've been talking about them even longer than that. So we're going to dive right into it. All right. So again, this is from the report that LinkedIn and Disability In combined to do, and it's around disability employment. So like our main topic here that we like to talk about at Save Visibility. So to me, the first takeaway is that people with disabilities are advancing, but a large amount of them are advancing as a result of moving jobs as opposed to being promoted. So that's an interesting aspect that I want to consider for a second. Let's talk about that. So I think this is a pretty good methodology here. I looked through the methodology, and LinkedIn is so big, so they have a pretty large sample, and it's global. So they're talking about countries all over the world. So I think that's significant too, even though we tend to be US focused here, but you can draw from other examples across the world internationally, particularly now with so many corporations having presences all over, right? So across the 7 countries that they studied, working age people with disabilities were overwhelmingly advancing by changing employers rather than through internal promotion. All right. So I think that's significant. So in the US, only 3% of workers with disabilities who stayed at the same firm saw advancement to higher seniority, while more than double that, about 7.5%, move into higher level roles after they switch companies. So I guess that's a good thing because they're advancing, but I don't know what that says about the corporations or the industries where they're not seeing promotions within. I mean, one of the things you want to do as an organization is try to promote from within, because you invest so much resources into onboarding the employee and then, getting the employee into your corporate culture or company culture, that you would think you would want to try to hang on to that employee and promote internally. So, but this pattern points out some market inefficiencies really that we've talked about here, and that's that employers are losing talent they already have. So then you have to then go back out for another talent search. That's costly. And there's all the intangibles that you're missing out. So I don't know. I mean, I think if, you can do internal advancement, that's better. And that's probably a better way to be helping your company, but also then helping the people with disabilities. So to me, there's a cost to this, and it's a preventable cost from these employers if they could promote from within a little better. So strategic advantages there to that internal development. All right, so that's takeaway 1. Takeaway 2 is a little bit of a generational take here. And what they found is that Gen Z is advancing disability employment at higher rates than other generations. So that's helping the employment story, and we're seeing gains for people with disabilities in Gen Z particularly. And so for the first time, really, that I've seen in any data, that disability employment is being measured, these younger generations are entering and staying in the workforce at levels equal to or even exceeding those individuals without disabilities of the same age group. So they're non-disabled peers. So I think that's significant. And the data point here is that in the US, 41.8% of Gen Z members with disabilities who were not working in 2023 entered employment in 2024, which is a full percentage point higher than Gen Z without disabilities, which 1% might not seem like much, but when we're talking about this cohort of individuals with disabilities, it's a big deal to have gains really in any ways, because there is such a chasm when you look at the overall picture, both in terms of the labor to population ratio and the unemployment rate. Okay. So that's significant. And it represents one of the strongest generational shifts that we've seen. And that disability employment for that Gen Z is looking up, which is a good thing. We like to see that. So it could be a turning point. The data indicates that a confluence of using digital tools, remote work models, modern accessibility coverages, disability inclusion outcomes can all improve. So all the topics we've talked about here on this program, that when you bring them to bear, this Generation Z, is showing that you can have gains there. That's a good thing, and that's significant. We wanted to call that out in the report. All right, the third thing that we're talking about here is really that what you see in the data is that countries or nations with strong disability laws do not necessarily show major employment gains, and so the gaps continue. So I guess it's equated to more laws does not lead to better outcomes. Matter of fact, the opposite might be true. The lesser the laws, the lesser the government involvement, the better the outcomes. Now, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be laws in place, particularly like the ADA, which is an anti-discrimination law. Obviously, that's in place, and that's a good law that we support. But that law just on its own, you don't see employment gains because of it, right? Okay, so that's the takeaway. So countries like France and Spain still show 10% disability employment gaps, despite very robust legislative protections and government interventions. And, it just shows you like more government is not necessarily the answer. Okay, so it supports our approach that laws can't solve the employment inequality problem or the employment gaps that we've been talking about. Less government is more likely to show you better gains. So, and it suggests that employers, policies, and putting accountability frameworks in place, whether it be the DEI index or all the other measures out there that you can look at, those are a good thing. Those produce real world data points that corporations are interested in, and accountability and all of that. That's good. We believe in the meritocracy, and this really kind of supports that. Okay, that when you measure it and when it's done professionally, that's where you see the gains. All right, so the policy sets the floor, and then the leadership raises the ceiling, I guess, like the accountability and having that creative vision to be able to improve outcomes for people with disabilities. So we're very pleased with this report overall. A little bit of a mixed bag with some of the results, but I think it's good that we're combining, or Disability:IN is combining with LinkedIn here, two big organizations, to be able to produce data. So it's a good thing. So we'll continue to go through this, and if there's more things, we'll talk about it, or maybe we'll even have a guest. So we just had a Disability:IN guest, but maybe we'll have somebody from LinkedIn on. But let me know in the comments. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Help us keep great content flowing for you. It's David Darkangelo, another episode of Save Ability, and I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.